3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hey everybody, and welcome to the College Esports update brought to you by Zaxby's. Cure your craving with Zaxby's. I am your host, Norris Howard, joined alongside a multitude of wonderful people in the world of college esports. And we got all the folks that you know and love, but they're going to be here in just a moment because we got to start the day with Overwatch. That's right, Collegiate Overwatch went down this week, and we got Jacob Brothers with more. Jacob, so the seeding mixer, quote unquote, started off this weekend, but no seeds actually got mixed. So what actually happened this weekend in Collegiate Overwatch?
Yeah, what a great question. Because on the Game Battles website, it was like, yeah, the seeding mixer is going to determine the seed values. It's like, oh, that makes sense given the name. And so I tune in, and it turns out that the seeding mixer is a 64-team loser goes home bracket where the final team makes the final spot of playoffs until the varsity wild card, where more teams will make the playoff. So, you know, Collegiate Overwatch, everybody. But yeah, so that means that the story of the show was University of Missouri versus UCSD. They were the final two teams to go into the final. And we had talked about a couple weeks ago how if a team has a good tank line, they're not going to win because the DPS matters.
Right.
Mizzou proved that to be false. So Mizzou has two of the best tanks I have seen, to be completely honest, and they build their entire comp around it. And it was incredible. So Paste played a Reinhardt that is the most aggressive player I've seen in my life. He would go so far into the back line and not die because he would be hyper aggressive but not overextend, which if you have a tank like that, you're going to win games. And so you'd have this Ryan that would go so inexcusably deep and somehow come out fine. And then the other tanks playing Zarya, Diamond would play Zarya. They did not change their comp across all two games. So wow. Zarya would always be in the right place at the right time, excellent positioning, just doing a bunch of high damage. There was, in the first game, the Zarya got 42 eliminations, and 37 of them were high energy.
Oh, that's filthy.
It was filthy, but you want to talk about filthy, we can talk about how Pace on a Reinhardt, to stop an enemy push, jumped off of a May wall, pulled out his Earth Shatter, turned in the air to catch them on the final push. So Mizzou genuinely won this game because of being very defensively aggressive. So like UCSD would roll up on Mizzou and it'd be like, Earth Shatter. No, you're not. But at the same time, to Mizzou's credit, they would also kind of get beaten very easily in fights. Like would kind of come out of nowhere because they'd have this dominant performance like on map 2 Eichenwald. But then when it was UCSD's turn, they just put up a May wall and just separated them and beat them. You're like, you were just dominant 30 seconds ago. How do you do this? But it really was, I've never seen a team comp built around the tank line like they were playing a Baptiste. And Baptiste had the best immortality field I've seen, excuse me, which revolved around keeping the Reinhardt alive. You would have the DPS cleaning up the kills that the Reinhardt didn't get to, or the Zarya didn't get to. And you had the Lucio that would keep the speed as this death ball comp would move. And it was money.
And so definitely I want to ask one more question about this because, you know, we talk about Mizzou a lot as a team that is sort of middle of the road. But with this said, you know, in UCSD, obviously you got to give some love to like Level 1 Slime. By the way, great name, Level 1 Slime.
Absolutely.
But the ultimate eating on the diva and just the off-tanking and the peeling was great and able to help win some of those team fights. But Mizzou ultimately looked really strong. As we move forward and we talk about, you know, going into the playoffs, where does a team like Mizzou stand?
Honestly, as much as I love them, and they are officially the team I'm rooting for because they have beautiful tanks and I love tanks, they're probably not going to go that deep because you can see their plan. Because they're going to be playing against teams that game plan. And someone can look at this footage and be like, oh, so if we somehow take out Paste and we somehow take out Diamond, we will win every fight. And Mizzou has the issue of when something doesn't go according to plan, they struggle to resolve that conflict. There was, like, even on the first map, they were in a hallway for like half the round. And they didn't think, how about we just go the other way? Like, they didn't do that. And when you're playing at a high level, you need to make those decisions very quickly. And they weren't. So I think because of their decision making, and you can definitely plan against them, I think that's going to hurt them early in the tournament.
Yeah, and so next weekend, we got to look forward to Yet another sort of semi-tournament to determine some of the
Mm-hmm.
placements, the wild card tournament coming up. We got a lot more college Overwatch to go to. But this seeding mixer, even though the title was a little bit misleading, was pretty exciting. If there was a team that you were kind of sad to see not get that final spot outside, obviously Mizzou moves on. But who put up a good fight and unfortunately couldn't make it?
Well, honestly, UCSD, like they were the other team that was better than everybody else. They did go to game 3 a couple times, but this is a team that's always in the right place at the right time. Their DPS is great. Ant plays the best tracer, and they didn't even pull out a tracer in the finals, which is questionable. But this is a team that is absolutely going to find success in the next year. So it was a real shame for them to not make it.
All right, well, that's going to be it from our Overwatch correspondent, Jacob Brothers. Jacob, thank you so much for joining us and sharing that insight, and we'll have more from you. We'll see you again on the on-campus show officially.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the College Esports Update. Norris Howard here, joining alongside Dominic Shotton. He's going to be our College Rocket League correspondent. So, Dom, thanks for joining us today.
Well, happy to be here, Norris.
Yeah, so what can we expect? It's been week 0. The spring semester is now officially underway. We got our first look at some of the big schools involved in College Rocket League. So how is Carball looking for some of the usual suspects?
Well, as one of the biggest usual suspects, Northwood University, they played their first game for Spring 21 off stream, so I can't give you any expert analysis on that. But they did win their set 3-1 over Ohio State, a big university, obviously, with a big esports program. So that's a great start for Northwood, of course, as they try to take their defending championship and extend it into Spring 21. So that's a great start for them. I imagine that they are just going to probably dominate competition again in Spring 21. But we got some more time to see what they're actually up to. 1 game compared to 2, where the other teams this week were playing 2. Northwood kind of had it easy this week, unfortunately, compared to other teams, which is maybe a little unfair for the best team to get an easier slate. But Akron University, the runner-up to Northwood in the Fall 20 Championship, they did play 2 of their games, one of them on stream against Florida Polytechnic Institute, and they dominated Florida Poly 3-0 in their set. They didn't let up a single goal in any of the games, just stingy defense the entire time. Akron looks like they are just going to, right there with Northwood, dominate the Eastern Conference, but they're in the same conference, which, that kind of sucks that maybe the 2 best teams are right there in the same conference together. They did get to play in the championship in Fall 20, so at least they don't seed it in their playoffs and hopefully continue to not seed it based on which conference you're in, because, man, you don't want to have one of the 2 best teams left out of the final game, and they're looking like they still can be.
Absolutely. And those are 2, Akron is absolutely a legacy esports program. Northwood really bursting onto the scene in fall of last year, putting a lot behind their College Rocket League program as well. Now, we also had a battle for Texas down south in a match between North Texas versus UT Dallas. These are 2 big Texas schools in the world of esports. How did this match end up panning out?
This was like a really great set of matches, right? Like, you look at UNT and UT Dallas, and these are 2 teams that finished in the top 8 of the Fall 20 Championship out of 32 teams. They finished 6 and 7 respectively, UNT and UT Dallas. And this was my game of the week, and they lived up to my own hype that I had for it, right? They went back and forth. As soon as UNT would score, they were usually the aggressor in the matches, right? As soon as they would score, UT Dallas had a quick answer within seconds. You would see the kickoff, UT Dallas would come in, press, and get a quick goal to answer, and they would usually tie up the game. But the thing is that there was a small difference in each of their games, and that was always UNT. They were steady. They were always on their rotations. Their airplay was amazing. They were just that little bit better, that they were always, almost in every single game, able to close out. UT Dallas did take one game 2-0, but UNT won the set as a whole 3-1, with the biggest game being in game 4, of course, the closeout game, where it was looking like, you know, it was going to be a stingy, like, back and forth type of game as all the others were. It was 1-1, and then UT Dallas went very passive. They kind of parked the bus in, like, you know, like soccer football terms. They were staying in their own half and just letting UNT come in and attack over and over, and they couldn't get possession from UNT. And UNT, their pressure was so dominant that they forced UT Dallas into an own goal, bringing the score to 1-2 in favor of UNT. And then they didn't get out of the park the bus stance. UNT brought it up in their half again, pressured them again, forced another own goal, 1-3. And then, finally realizing they can't park the bus anymore because they're down 2, UT Dallas pressed, and they pressed everyone up. There was no backline defense, and when they lost possession of the ball in UNT's half, UNT being that little bit much better, they went on the counterattack straight away and got an open, empty net goal, essentially. There was just a free goal. Score went to 1-4, and that was pretty much a wrap. I mean, it was 1-4 with less than a minute to go. The score ended up being 2-5 in favor of UNT. But it was already pretty much over at that point. UT Dallas, their backs were broken.
Yeah, very, very tough. So we'll see what North Texas is able to do in the future. I am excited to see that they were able to play very, very aggressively. It's really, really, really interesting to see that Texas battle go the way it did. But again, out east is where the battle will be won and lost. We will see whether it's Northwood or whether it's Akron, but the West has a lot of ground to make up here. But with that said, thanks, Don, for that expert analysis, and we will see you back here to talk a little bit more college card ball and CRL in the future.
Sounds good.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the College Esports Update. Your host, Norris Howard here. But as always, the show is brought to you by Zaxby's. Cure your craving with Zaxby's. I got one of my favorite people in all of college esports joining us, Coach Adam Antor of Aquinas College. Coach, what's going on? We got league to talk about. It's a lot happening right now. Playoffs wrapped up, regional finals wrapping up. We're going into the national chip. How you feeling right now?
I'm feeling fantastic. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling real good, man. But let me just say this right now. You have went out and you have been saying that Harrisburg University has been underperforming all semester long. You're one of the only people that I've heard say this. We haven't heard a lot about it because people just assume that Harrisburg will be in the dance and will perform well. And yet, they get to the finals and they are taken down by Western University. First and foremost, I got to say, Coach, you read this from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take I don't find happiness in calling programs and teams out for their lack of performance at the level that they should be competing in. But this is just something that we've seen signs of for quite a while, and it's something that I have not ignored when it comes to talking on this show and on social media. And it finally came to a head this weekend when we saw Western University defeat Harrisburg in the East Conference Finals 3-1.
Yeah, and so talking a little bit about that match. Now, again, Western University is a strong team, but Harrisburg has been one of the top 3 or 4 schools, if not top 2, alongside Maryville, with potential to actually win the national championship. Why was Western able to best them in this Eastern Conference final?
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Western on this championship win. I mean, this Western team is extremely talented. They've got a couple really high-ranked players, GMs plus, and it looks like they've got some type of coaching or some type of cohesion in the background that's really driving them towards the goal of high performance in CLOL. And they're doing a fantastic job. This win is going to be huge for them, especially in seeding going into the national championship. I take more away from this match as Western is a really strong team that every team in CLOL is going to have to watch out for if they come across them in the national bracket. And then on the other side, Harrisburg has some things to work on. Thankfully, they have about a month to work on some of that stuff, but they're just not performing where they should be performing, and that goes back to coaching. That goes back to some of the mentality on the team, and just because you are a ranked top 3 in the country doesn't mean you earn a top 3 spot. You've got to go out and earn it. And we saw Western go out and earn that spot this week.
Absolutely. Now moving very quickly to the South Division, or the Southern Conference, we have Winthrop coming out over George Mason 3-0. Houston took 3rd place over NC State. We don't talk a lot about the South, but we have said that Winthrop is a team to watch out for since the beginning. A long, strong program that has been in the mix for a while. So really no surprise to see Winthrop coming out at the top of that South Division. Now we also move over to the West, where, Coach, you said this is going to be a tight one, and this could be a situation where, hey, some of these Western schools may struggle in the national bracket, but we still got to talk about who ended up coming out in the West.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona State ended up coming out on top after a long 5-game series. It took them all 5 games to come out on top against the Highlanders. And they finally do. They look strong. The other team looks strong. But really, the test is going to be this national bracket. It really depends on where they end up seated, who their first matchup is, and if they're ready for the national bracket. I'm not sure. The West Conference is historically not the strongest conference. We look to the North for that. And I'm not quite sure where Arizona State's going to fall.
Yeah, and speaking of the Northern Conference, obviously we had, what is the strongest Cardinal Direction Conference, and arguably the strongest conference in the country, even amongst the partner conferences as well. We have Maryville coming out on top again. No real surprises there, but Illinois State, a team that you've been a big fan of all semester long, definitely came out and they played. I'll put it that way. They played, but Maryville eventually ended coming out on top. So, Coach, we want to thank you for your analysis, and we look forward to your opinions coming up in the national bracket. And looking at who we've had coming out of some of these conferences, maybe even some of the partner conferences, is Maryville still the favorite to come out of this?
Yes. I mean, Maryville is by far the best coached team in CLOL, in my opinion, also has the greatest talent. But anything can kind of happen when it comes to College League of Legends. One off day can lead to getting knocked out of a bracket earlier than you expected. So look to see how Maryville performs in the national bracket come May.
Yeah, so, Coach, with that said, Maryville comes out on top in the Northern Division. But, I got to ask, in your assessment, are they still the top program in the country? Are they still favored to win this whole thing after we seen who's potentially going to be moving to that national bracket?
Yes, Maryville is the best coach team in CLOL, in my opinion. They also have the greatest amount of talent. They have the greatest to lose, though, when it comes to the national bracket. And we know College League Legends can get exciting, and one off day can lead to a team losing out and getting out of a tournament earlier than they expected. So I'm excited to watch Maryville, and hopefully they can perform at their the top level of their potential and make a deep run in this tournament.
Well, thank you, Coach, so much for your expert analysis, and we look forward to hearing all of your opinions and assessments coming up for that national bracket, where we're going to break down everybody who's made it so far, and we're going to really look at it. It's going to be a great time. Coach, thank you again, and we'll see you next week. Hey everybody, welcome back once more to the College Esports Update. I know we had a jam-packed show, but we're finally going to get to a little bit of college, Kyle. We know you wanted it, so we're bringing back Andrew to talk a little bit about the matches. And first of all, we had a massive top 10 matchup that happened in College COD. We had number 3 Sheridan go against number 6 Carleton. And let me tell you, this was a barn burner. Our player of the week, 47, was in this match. So tell us a little bit about how this ended up getting broken down. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Norris, like you said, we had that top 10 matchup. Sheridan, we kind of put them under the radar, didn't talk about them as much as we talk about, Ottawa Gold and Ottawa Black being at that, number 1 and number 2 spot. That number 3 spot is very important. They've been proving that this whole 8 to 9 weeks. And as you said, 47 from Carleton did drop 57 kills in hardpoint, getting that team a win for that round. But Sheridan did come out on top of the Canadian rivalry, we like to say, between these two matchups. They end up going with the search match and getting that win, taking over control, getting control and leading the series 2-1 there. And then finally closing out that Canadian rivalry on map 4 in a hardpoint match on Apocalypse.
Yeah, and this was a really, really great match to watch if you're trying to see some top flight collegiate Call of Duty, it was a very, very exciting match. But we also got another top 25 match where we saw number 5, the Eagles, go down. The Georgia Southern Eagles ended up going against Alabama. How did that match end up?
So it was pretty interesting. It kind of took a world turn real quick. At first map, the first match there, Alabama did come out on top, so it did start out 0-1. And then from there, Eagles Gold, being a top 5 team there, as you said, they kind of took control of who they really were, ended up going 3-0 for these next 3 maps, closing out the series 3-1.
Yeah, and lastly, I want us to very quickly talk a little bit about SIUE Red, number 17 in the rankings. How are they looking in their match against BU Esports? That's Butler, if you are unfamiliar.
Yeah, BU Butler, they did try to come out with the, arm swing in there, but SIUE Red, as you said again, top 17 team there. They did sweep them. D-Day from SIUE Red did drop the highest kill streak of the entire series there with 10, starting out in that opening hardpoint matchup. There was tons of sweeps this week, so we're not sure if that was because it was the split 2 kind of going into it and the higher rankings kind of facing off those little stragglers, but closer on into the tournament here, we're going to start seeing not as many sweeps, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and hopefully that means we get some more competitive weeks. But thank you, Andrew, for that update in College COD, and that is going to be your College Esports update. We hope to see you all next week where we have even more news coming up. We're going to have more Rocket League and more Overwatch as we get into those postseasons, as well as even more C-Law as we approach that final bracket for the national championship. So for everybody here on the show this week, we know it was a lot. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you again.